Hello, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America. Renée Watson is a #1 New York Times bestselling author for children, for young adults, and now for adults. Her books have sold over 1 million copies. She's the winner of numerous awards, including the John Newbery Honor and the Coretta Scott King Author Award, and she is my guest today. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
You have no idea how much pleasure it gets me to say she sold 1 million books.
I get pleasure hearing it.
That is extraordinary.
Thank you.
And Audra, our producer director, and I were trying to figure out what's a writer's schedule like to produce as many books as you have produced and to actually have them sell 1 million copies. You know, so what's the secret that you can share with all of the readers and would-be writers out there?
So I don't know that there's a secret to writing, except you got to write. You have to find the time to do it. You were asking me, do I write every day? And I don't write every day, but I do writerly things every day, right? So I'm researching or listening to the world and taking the world in so that when I go to the page, I have something to say. When I was working full-time, I would write on my lunch break. I would go to a coffee shop right after work instead of going straight home, because once you get home after a long day of work, there's, you know, I'm not gonna write. So I would go and put in some time and then go home. So I just figured out how to get it in little short sessions. I would write for maybe an hour, 2 hours here and there. Now that I'm writing full-time, I can take more time to write, but yeah, I'm not sure how I became so prolific. I think it's just...
Well, you did start early, you know. I mean,
I
you started, was it second grade when some teacher said to you, you know, this is pretty good. I think you may be a writer.
Yes, so the story is in the second grade, I wrote a 21-page story. And yes, the teacher was like, oh, I think maybe you're going to be a writer one day. And I always say, bless her heart for reading that handwriting with all those misspelled words, I'm sure. But she saw something in me. And my mother fanned that flame and always was giving me journals and encouraging me to write and listening to my story. So I always felt that I was writing to share it. So I didn't know anything about getting published or what it would mean to be an author, but I knew that my words weren't just for me and that I wanted to share them with somebody else.
And you were from Portland, Oregon.
Yes.
And I thought it was very hilarious, actually, that Ramona Quimby lived in your neighborhood.
Yes.
The fictional Beverly Cleary character lived in your neighborhood.
Yes. I loved reading about her. I knew Klickitat Street. I knew that street. I knew the library she was visiting. And I loved knowing that this girl lived in Portland. And I always say it gave me permission to write about home. I mean, in some ways I critique it. There were no Black people in that series. But in other ways, it definitely gave me permission then to write in Black folks who live in the Pacific Northwest and to tell our stories and make sure that our lives are seen.
Yeah, I love when you talk about that there are, as people write, you know, there are mirrors and there are windows. If you could tell us a little bit about that concept. You know, most people know the mirror part of it. That's why we need representation, you know, to see ourselves, for our children to see themselves.
Yeah, you know, I think it's important for folks to not only see yourself, but to look out into the world and see somebody else's experience. Even if they look like you, there are still things you could read in a character and they're going through something that you're not going through, or they don't look anything like you, but the circumstance is the same. And so it just builds empathy, I think, when you're asking young people to step outside of the stories that they might normally read or gravitate to and push them to read something else.
So you're a poet, you do everything,
Yes.
as we are trying to give the impression that you fully understand that she does everything. And so when people ask the question, where are you from, you've got, we found a video, right? And you said to us, where did you find that? But I want to play this video, which answers the question of where are you from?
Okay. I'm from the whole neighborhood is your family. Ladies sit on their porches looking out for you, shooing away boys like flies, calling your mama to tell her what you did before you can get home and lie about it. Where I'm from, people ask my friend, is that your hair? And she says, yeah, it's mine. I bought it. I'm from divorce being passed down to children like a family heirloom. I'm from single mamas pushing strollers praying that their babies don't have the same struggles as them. I'm from a little goes a long way. From sun's gonna shine after the rain. I'm from persevering souls and hardworking hands, from a people destined to make it to their promised land. I'm from been there, done that, can and will do it again. Now you, tell me, where you from? Thank you.
I absolutely love that.
Thank you. You know, so I grew up in Portland, Oregon. I grew up in the Black neighborhood, Northeast Portland. And I was surrounded by so much love and comfort and nurturing from neighbors. The whole neighborhood raised me. And it wasn't until I got older and would step outside of that Black community and into the larger city of Portland that I realized people did not understand where I came from. There were a lot of stereotypes and assumptions about kids who grew up in that neighborhood on that side of town. And so it is so important to me to put the pride and joy and love of Black folks in books and to share all of that along with the struggle and the things that you want to change about your neighborhood. Things were not perfect, but there was love and there was joy always. And so I try to, in my work, when I'm writing about myself or making up a story, I want to have both of those things right up next to each other: the joy, the sorrow, the hardship, the triumph, all of it.
And what you've done for Black girls is just tremendous, you know. I mean, you create characters like Ryan, little characters, you know,
Yes.
the young ones, you know, who are worried about a new sibling coming in. Is that going to ruin everything?
Yes.
You know? And whatever. So where does that all, is that all family experience?
Oh, it's family. It's listening to what's happening in the world. I used to work with young people as a mentor and a teaching artist, teaching poetry in schools. So I have a lot of their stories circling in my mind as I'm writing. The Ryan Hart series is loosely based off of my goddaughter, whose name is Ryan, and who loved to cook and make up recipes and get us to taste test all her little concoctions. And I just wanted to write something for her and for girls like her who could see themselves in a book that was not about teaching something to white folks about being Black, but just letting her exist and not having to combat racism or, you know, stand up for something she believes in. She just gets to play and have fun and have little girl worries, you know, about friendship drama and, like you said, the new sibling that's coming into the family, and that's a part of our story too. So I wanted to have a series where little girls can see themselves in that way as well.
Right. I want you to know, it's very funny. I was in Barnes & Noble yesterday reading Ryan Hart books with people who were sitting at my table in the cafe, like looking at me very strangely, you know, because I was having such a good time.
Oh, I love that.
But the books are for everybody.
They
you know,
are. They really are. It's so funny how we have categorized literature in a way that makes adults feel that they can't read books where the protagonist is a certain age. But it's called middle grade because of the age that the characters are, not because only middle grade can read that book, right? So it's weird because we watch movies that have, you know, intergenerational cast, and then no one judges you on that. But if you have a book in your hand and it's deemed for young people, people do kind of give you a little look like, why are you reading that?
I know.
You know?
Exactly.
But yeah, stories are for everybody.
I mean, I can say, oh, it's for my granddaughter. You know, and meanwhile, you know, I'm turning the pages and having such a good time. Talk to us a little bit. I know that you worked with Ilyasah Shabazz on her book about her mom, Betty, before X, who I knew. We traveled to South Africa together, and I was just so honored to get the Shabazz Vanguard Award recently.
Yes.
And to work with Ilyasah on some projects. So talk to us about that. And you did Maya and so many other heroes, the 1619 project with
Nicole Hannah-Jones. Yeah, so with Betty Before X, Ilyasah and her agent approached me. She had read my middle grade What Mama Left Me and felt like I could write about faith and that I could write about, girlhood and joy and all of the struggle all in one thing. And so it was such an honor to work with her on that book, to co-write that with her. I learned a lot about Detroit. I learned a lot about Betty as a child. You know, we look at these leaders as if they arrived that way. And we don't always know what it took to get them to be the leader that they became. And so one of the reasons why I love writing biographies or realistic historical fiction is because you get to kind of show young people that we all have a beginning, and sometimes it's not that great. Sometimes it's really hard, and you can overcome the hard thing and do great things. And so, yeah, I loved working on that book for many reasons, but the main reason is because we got to see kind of the behind the scenes of someone's life who we only know as this public figure, but who in her own right was an activist and did so much for Black girls.
So the reason that we have this interview is that we reached out to you and said, we recently were interviewing Nikki Giovanni, and the question was, well, who are you reading now? Who do you think is great? And Nikki Giovanni said, Renée Watson, you know, and so we tried to use that as a tease. You know, Nikki said we should call you and get you on the show, and so we were so delighted.
Well, yeah, I would have said yes without you saying that, but yes, it is an honor to have her speak of me in that way.
And she tracked you down. I love that.
She did.
We're going to let's play a little bit of this clip of you with Nikki. And she did say as the interview was beginning, I only tracked down one other person, and that was Toni Morrison. And now I'm tracking you down. But you were talking about Maya, so let's listen to a little bit of that clip.
But I remember leaving there in tears and feeling like I've just witnessed something great and I'm forever changed. There's very few times where I can point back to a moment and feel like that was a turning point in my career, in my dream, or in finding myself. And that was one of the moments where I just was like, this woman who's been through so much, so boldly is telling her story, no apology of her Blackness, so beautiful and proud. I just felt so seen. I felt like I'm in this auditorium full of people, but I felt like she was talking to me. It really felt like we're this close, but I'm again way in the balcony in the back row. And I'm with these younger people who are, you know, younger than me, and I'm supposed to be mentoring them. And here I am in tears watching this legend on the stage. It was just a beautiful night. I go back to that night often. I feel like something ignited in me. You can write, sure, but what are you writing for? And what is your purpose? And why do you want to do this work? And I feel like that night was the night I started thinking more deeply about what I wanted to do with what was a hobby or something I did on the side, writing. She showed me like, no, this is a gift, so what are you going to do with it?
Wow, wow. And so what are you going to do with it? I think you're proving that every, you know, book that you send out into the world.
I'm trying to. Yeah, I feel the weight of that responsibility, you know. A price was paid for me to be able to do this. And so I don't take it lightly. I have fun, and it is amazing, and I have traveled the world, and sometimes I can't believe that is the life I get to live, that this is my reality. But I also feel very much indebted to the people who came before me and who paved the way. I always say, you know, we live in a country where folks who look like us, it was illegal to teach us how to read. So the fact that I get to write books and talk to young people because of my words is very powerful, and that is not lost on me.
So we've reached that point of the discussion where we discuss with every single writer the idea that books are being banned across the country.
Yeah.
And you participated, you were one of the writers of the 1619 version for children. Are you banned yet?
Oh, of course. So many of my books I was banned before Born on the Water. Piecing Me Together has been banned. Watch Us Rise. The Ryan Hart series.
The Ryan
recently
Hart
has come
series,
under
the
attack.
ones I was reading. It's a good thing I wasn't caught reading the 8-year-old version of this really great kid.
Yeah.
You know,
so it definitely happens. I've had author visits get canceled because there's just too much tension in the community around me even coming to meet young people. I try to let that fuel me to just keep doing the work. it proves to me how important it is that our stories get told, the fact that they don't want us to tell them. So that emboldens me. I want to tell more. I want to get louder. It makes me want to continue to fight to make sure all young people have our books, right? I am absolutely writing for Black children, especially Black girls, but I think that it is important that boys read the book, that white folks read the book. We should all be reading and taking in each other's stories. And so, I'm going to keep writing, even with everything that's happening. And I want to say, I do know that there are educators who are making sure our books get in the hands of their students. There are a lot of activists.
At great risk.
At great risk, like their jobs.
Right.
So there's a lot of activism happening in pushing back against all the mandates.
What do you say to a white mother, for instance, who would say, I don't want my daughter reading these books or buying your books?
I don't know that I would say much to her. I think at this point there's so much that has already been said and that's already been written, and I think
But you had an encounter with a parent?
I have had several encounters with parents. I've had encounters with young people. I think it's a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'm approaching the conversation of asking them what they're afraid of. Mm-hmm. And often they have not even read the book and they don't want, so it's not, that it's not about the story, it's about something else. And so if we can have a real conversation, then we can talk about that. But I don't get into the back and forth of like, well, the book is really just about this. And I don't try to do all of that. But if we can talk about your fear of Blackness, or maybe are you afraid to see Black folks as human because that makes you have to love them and have empathy for them, and we can have that conversation. But all of the kind of superficial conversations around trying to prove why my stories matter, I just can't have that conversation with white folks. I let them talk amongst themselves and read all the articles and read all the blog posts that have already been put out there for that. But we can have a conversation about you seeing me and validating my history, and also validating the legacy. We often talk about this issue around book banning through the lens of race, as if there were no white folks who were allies and who fought and who stood up. So it's interesting to me, the fear that white kids would get uncomfortable, or that they don't have something to learn about advocacy, right? So if they learn history, they could learn that they were the oppressor, but they could also learn that folks like them stood up for people who were being oppressed. And why would you not want that story to be passed down, right? We want white kids to be learning that they have a role in this and that they could choose to stand up and fight for justice. And so it's interesting to me, all of the fear around white comfort and making white students not feel uncomfortable. I think you should feel uncomfortable when you learn about oppression. That is a sign that you care and that you are a healthy citizen of this world. So to squash that down in them is really sad to me. So I'm going to keep writing books to push everybody to care about each other and to think about their place in this world.
And you're working hands-on for recovering from trauma, and talk to us a little bit about your nonprofit work. So you're writing, but you're also in there as an activist. Yeah,
so my background is actually in creative arts therapy. I went to school to study how you can use the arts to help kids cope with trauma. So using theater, writing, art. I did art therapy with young people in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. I've worked with survivors of the earthquake in Haiti and survivors of abuse. And so, I think it's important to have young people, especially Black folks sometimes, who don't have the resources to go to therapy or don't believe in therapy, to have a process to cope. And art can do that, especially for young people who feel like they're out of control, their life is out of control. Art gives them some power and some voice to be able to work through some of the things that they're.
And your nonprofit is I2.
Oh, so I had I2 Arts Collective. We were in the brownstone where Langston Hughes lived, and we're no longer there, but those years were precious and beautiful years of young people coming in to write poems, to carry on his tradition as a poet and playwright and activist himself. And then the adults. We had adult programming as well, where conversations and readings and open mic nights. It was a beautiful, beautiful time in Harlem.
Right. And so that was, I think, 16 to 19. You guys were there, and in the actual
in his home with his typewriter and breathing in his legacy, for sure. Yeah.
Right. And talk about inspiration. I want to talk a little bit about the Renée Watson Cottage.
Yes.
That you've created. We're looking very closely because we think if we do what you did for the Cottage, then we might be able to write fabulous things too. So tell us a little bit about Highlander and how all of that came about.
The Highlights Foundation, you know, I grew up reading their little magazines, and I could not believe, I did not know that they had this farm. They have a space for writers and illustrators to come take workshops, take classes, or just retreat. And you don't have to sign up for a class. You can just go and work on your own thing. And we've had a relationship for the last few years of me teaching there or being a part of the community. And they reached out to me and said, we want to honor you. We would love to name a cottage in your name. And at first I really was just, I did not know how to take that. It was a lot, it felt like a lot, but I talked about it with my sisters actually, and they were like, absolutely, you should say yes to that. So I got to curate the space, which was great because I had all this stuff from the Langston Hughes house, like Frank Morrison's art of Langston, a lot of books and other pieces that I have been looking for a home for them. So I got to go decorate the space. It's right near the Poconos. And set it up kind of like how my home is. So there's a record player because I write to music.
What kind of music?
I like to make playlists, thinking of what my characters would want to listen to, or music that gets me in the world of my character.
Of your character.
So it's not one particular kind of music, but personally, my music is R&B, gospel, or jazz. That's kind of what is usually in rotation in my house. So yeah, the space is open for writers.
And what else is in it though? But you have the music.
I have my books, the art from the Langston Hughes house.
Right. Any prompts? Anything?
Yes, I do. I have some writing prompts for people who are stuck. I use prompts a lot, so I have a little box in there of things that I wrote down to help you if you get stuck or want to just brainstorm and maybe you're not ready to start writing yet.
Oh, it's phenomenal. And now you, next year, have an adult book coming out.
I do.
It's getting more and more age appropriate. Then the next thing you have to do is start with the grandmothers, right? Write a book especially for grandmothers. But interesting that you've written this book for adults to help them with their girls.
I hope it does that. Yeah. You know, there are some conversations that as I've been having conversations with young people about beauty, accepting your body, love, relationships, when to let go of someone in your life, when to hold on and work it out. I have wanted to talk to the adults who are raising these girls and who are loving these girls. So Skin and Bones is the name of the novel, and it is about what we pass on to the next generation. My main character has a daughter who is always listening, like I was. Even when she thinks that her daughter is not paying attention, she's paying attention. And so she's picking up some things that maybe she doesn't want to pass down to her daughter. And so it's about love, romantic love, friendship love, mother-daughter love, and healing. How do we heal ourselves? And how do Black women especially heal ourselves in spaces that are not made for us? So she's feeling squeezed out because of her body. She's squeezed out because she's a Black woman living in Portland, Oregon. And it's about all of that. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait.
Thank
That's
you.
2024.
Yes.
Skin and Bones
Skin and
will
Bones.
be out in the meantime. Any other projects that you're working on that we should keep an eye
Well,
on?
the last Ryan Hart book comes out in the fall, which I'm sad and proud and excited to share it. We've been with her for 3 books now. This is the 4th and last book, and we get to see Ryan graduate from elementary school and know that she's going to be okay as she enters middle school.
Now, any pickup for films, TV series?
Not yet, but keep speaking that out into the world, and we'll see what happens.
Because it's programming that should absolutely, definitely, be there.
Thank you.
And I noticed that you've just gotten an honorary doctorate, or just recently.
Yes.
Talk to us about
I
that
got
as we go out on this very high note of
from
new
Lewis
books.
and Clark in Portland, which was a college that I took summer classes at when I was in high school. So to be honored as a writer in that space was very, very special.
Oh, it's tremendous. So give the girls who've been reading your books, a million of them, by the way, a million book-selling author we're talking to now. Give them your words that you would want them to take with them now, briefly.
Oh, I want girls to know that they are worthy and that it is okay to take up space. Use your voice loud, 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 and take up all the space.
Oh, Renée Watson, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having
you
me.
for giving all of these girls and women and, not only the mirrors, but the windows, and just tremendous literature.
Thank you.
I hope, we have another, 12 or 15 or who knows, 100 books in there coming out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's it for us at this time. I want to thank my guest, Renée Watson, New York Times bestselling author, recipient of the John Newbery Honor and Coretta Scott King Awards, and many, many, many more. We thank you for joining us as well. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and we will see you the next time.